Hi, this is Bryant with Slam, and we have a mission of supporting local artists and musicians. And on September 26th at Eagle Mount, we are going to do just that by hosting a community jam. And one of the stars of our show is Russ Chapman, who is here with me today to talk about creativity and using it as a tool to get through some of the dark times we've experienced this year. So, Russ, I want to start there. How do you stay creative in tough times?
That's a great question, really. I mean, in light of COVID and civil unrest and political turmoil and now natural disasters, how do you maintain a sense of creativity throughout it? And honestly, I can only speak to my own experience. And I'm someone who absorbs what happens around me. And a lot of artists do. And that's what makes them good artists. But also it can lend itself to saturation, where it's too much of the world overwhelms you. And that's obviously not unique to artists. I think a lot of people have felt that way. Probably yourself too, right?
For sure.
Yeah, so
events.
So what I found, my personal experience with all this, I mean, there's always something going on, but these are definitely exceptional times. My personal experience is I got overwhelmed. I got saturated. I got to the point where there really wasn't a lot of room to play with ideas. And that's the way I see art. I see art, even if you're dealing with sadness or depression or hard times, you're still taking something, you're tossing it around, you're breaking it, you're putting it back together. And to me, that's what the artistic process is. I didn't find there was much room for that because my being felt so overwhelmed with what was going on. I've been working on a little bit of a book of flash fiction and essays, and all of it was kind of humorous, funny stuff that would maybe make you laugh, hopefully. And I was still working on it when COVID hit. And then when things really started to take off and we were just, inundated with a lot of bad news, I stopped writing because I looked at what I was doing and I saw it as insignificant. That's a tough thing to look at the work that you do as not being important. And then it brings up the question of, well, isn't art important? Don't we need this? Don't we need things, a place to go to escape the world, or things to engage in to make us see things a little bit differently or to get some insights? We do. But sometimes artists are so overwhelmed with the situation that they can't even provide that service because it's just too much. So I was in that state for a while because it just really felt like what I was doing wasn't important. But then a friend of mine's mother died, and I couldn't make it to the wake and to the funeral. So I sent her a song. I wrote a song. And that song kind of started a process of getting back into being creative. And that song was, it's entitled Let My Heart Be Your Guide. And it's kind of about someone leaving a piece of themselves behind. And it seemed to address a lot of the loss that was happening at the time. And it started the creative process back up for me. And I'm happy to say that, the wheels are turning again. But I think if you're finding it hard to be creative during these trying times, sometimes that's okay. I mean, I think some people would see this as a wellspring of opportunity because of all the emotions that run through them, or maybe the extra time they have on their hands. And I have talked to some other musicians about this who said, "Oh, I've written a whole album's worth of material over this time." And I'm like, wow, well, that's good for you.
I think that's very interesting. What you pointed out there was it was sadness that actually helped re-spark that creative fire in you.
Yeah, it really is, because I think that having absorbed a lot of what was going on, sadness was probably what I was feeling ultimately too. And so to share that, that's a good good insight on that. And it's not a place I normally go either. You know, most of the time I write songs that are kind of wordplay, fun, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was sadness. It was me venturing into a realm that I don't really venture into that often. That did get me out of it. So yeah, that's a good point.
I think sadness and anxiety could be something that blocks you because you're not in control. When you're happy or you're joyful or you have a spark of creativity that comes easy, you have more of a sense of control, but sadness, anger, anxiety could lead to a rawness in creativity. So do you think part of the block might be you just don't know how to channel that emotion, or you're afraid where that emotion might go?
I think my general go-to place artistically is not there. You know, I don't generally write heartfelt, emotional songs, introspective songs, songs about my personal experiences. That's not what I'm about. I like ideas. I like novel ideas. I like fun ideas. I like to toss ideas around. And sadness is a feeling. It's an emotion, and it's not really an idea. And so, yeah, I would say that we all get sad. So it's not as if, but yeah, I would say it was more about not really my territory, not my place that I normally go. And then when I do go there, I feel like it's like I get it. It works. You know, the song that I wrote, it's a good song, and I'll play it on the 23rd.
26.
So we'll 26th. I knew it. I was going to ask 26th. I'll play it on the 23rd to get ready for the 26th.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'll share that moment. But let's talk about this idea of anxiety for a minute, because I feel like this is another important aspect of creativity in the modern age, and that's social media. And in particular, Twitter, and probably Facebook to a lesser degree. Now, if you've engaged, do you engage those platforms at all?
Not on Twitter. I have Facebook, but I could be better. I guess professionally, I need to utilize social media more than I do.
Yeah, so I'm a consumer of Twitter. I don't really engage as a creator, but it's a war out there. The division is insane. The rhetoric is off the charts. The volatility and the poison and just how people treat each other, it's completely disheartening. And it's thousands and thousands of people, real people. I mean, they're not just all bots. These are real people really at each other's throats. And it's a lot of voices, a lot of voices, and they're expressing themselves, expressing their opinions, and they're also using creativity to do this. So now they've weaponized creativity. They use it as a way to put each other down, or put, quote unquote, the other side down. And I've found that to be a bit of a problem for my creative process, because then all of a sudden I feel like, oh, well, I'm just another voice. I'm just another, if I have an opinion on a matter and I want to express it through song or a story, all of a sudden it feels like, oh gosh, I'm just another one of those people, which I don't want to be. I don't like that. I don't like any of that. I think it's awful. And I think in some ways, social media has really kind of ruined art.
Yeah, funny. I've always thought social media kind of had a yin and a yang for event production. On one side, for me, it became an ROI. It's like, this is why you could justify the event spend, is because you could see how many people have interacted with your company or your brand. But on the other side, it really ruins the story. People are so quick to do spoilers, and even more than that, you could plan this whole larger than life event and everybody's looking through it through their phone, and suddenly, instead of having an intimate connection with this unique setting, you're showing off to the world where you are and not really being present. So I think that is kind of an interesting dichotomy. So I want to kind of go back to, you were feeling sad. Well, then you couldn't make the wedding and you couldn't make the wake and the funeral. And so you wrote this song. How did that help kickstart your creativity? Once you're able to get some of that sadness out in an artistic medium, what happened next?
Well, the irony is I posted it to, to my Facebook page, and I actually promoted it. I spent like $15. I don't know if you've ever promoted anything on, but you can choose little geographic areas and promote it, and it kind of gets sent into other people's feeds, just strangers. And I did that because it was COVID and I was bored, and I was like, let's just spend a little money. And it kind of took off. It was shared a lot, and it touched a lot of people, and it just kind of I concentrated in the Seattle area for a little bit because that's where COVID was kind of really it was a hot spot for a while, and I felt like it was reaching people, and it was kind of like it was a relief for me to kind of feel like, oh, I've done something good. I've helped in some way. And so I think that helped, just that process of sharing it, and not just sharing it, but also getting that feedback that made you feel like, oh, wow, this was good.
It helped you be not just another voice, but your specific voice, an authentic voice for people who needed to hear it.
Yeah, saying that thing that was kind of comforting, but also sort of just melancholy at the same time. Just kind of feeling a little comfort in your sadness, I think is what that song, the feeling of that song. And I think people needed that to feel comfortable with being sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I teach dance, and I teach dance around the emotions. And to me, there's a real power in sadness, and you can be honest and you can be raw. And you talked before about how creativity has been weaponized, but it's been weaponized around anger, around hate, about yelling. And it's like so many people are quick to jump and point out stuff from the other side, and a lot of it's repeated. You hear something, you add something sparks in you get angry, you make assumptions. And when it comes to having an authentic sad voice, that's no longer coming from someone else. That's your own sadness, and there's like a rawness to it that's nice because it's authentic. And I think authentic voices are really what we need right now.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I would say you've put some thought into this too. Yeah, that's and it's nice to share this because I think you have some great insights to it. That sadness is more of a personal thing, where anger does feel a little bit more like a collective emotion that people seem to really build on.
So it seems like your songs are very well written in terms of storytelling. You're a storyteller and not just a musician. Can you speak for a moment about the power of stories and why your songs seem to really, I think, resonate around a specific story?
Well, it's interesting. There's an old expression that it's show business and not tell business. We're in the world of show business and not tell business, and it's kind of a clever thing to say, but when you really think about it, people don't really want to be told things, but you can show them things, and people can see things in a different way depending on what you're showing them. And I think the power of stories is that you're not really telling, you're really showing. And I think that it has a longer lasting effect. But as far as like stories, it's interesting. We probably both each know somebody who, when you go to a gathering, when there used to be parties and such, they just hold court. They just they tell this story. They did this thing. They went on this adventure, and they have a way of telling it, and they just kind of grab the whole room. And that's not me. It never has been. So in terms of the storytelling, I like to tell stories that I make up. I don't have no interest in telling people things that have happened to me. I have much more of an interest in saying like, there's this guy, okay, and so that interests me more. And also just ideas, wordplay, interests me quite a bit. Just kind of I just like to have fun with words, and yeah, it's humor. I think is one of my main. If I write something I think is funny, then I feel like I've succeeded in my mission.
Do you have a favorite song you've written?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. No, I don't have a favorite. But there's one that there's some that I get a little bit more of a kick out of, and like this one's a little offensive. But this idea that you when you have demons, inner demons, that you're supposed to purge out of your body, that they call it an exorcism, right? You need to exorcise those demons. Well, I wrote a song that's about like you needing that part of you, and that if you don't go out and do bad things, quote unquote bad things, then you won't have those little demons to rely on. And that song's entitled "Exorcise Your Demons." Exercise them.
I really like it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like stuff that's just like that, where it's like, all right, it's a turn of phrase. Let's do a song called "Exercise Your Demons." So yeah, that one's a fun one.
Well, it's like if you just paint the other side, you may be missing some important things. And even circling back to our earlier conversation, nobody wants to be sad, but sadness is such a powerful thing, and it's a natural thing. And if we don't ignore it, we could see that it's a very healthy and healing thing for us. But it's looking at the other side and seeing that everything has a second side.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I would say kind of in our last question is, do you have any advice to somebody right now who's struggling to try and get back on their feet creatively, how they can do it?
Well, it depends on their medium. I think if you're a writer, a songwriter or a regular writer, I think writers have more of a challenge than a silversmith, or a painter. That's my own personal opinion, because it's so much about words and thoughts. This would be my advice. Read a book. And when I say read a book, my own personal suggestion would be read a nonfiction book. Read something about nature. Read about real things that happen to real people, real science, real social, stories, biographies, rather than engaging in another make-believe world. That's me personally. I think that the world of nonfiction is a good way to kind of spark ideas. And I'm all about ideas.
And that is a great place to leave it. So Russ, thank you so much. And you can join Russ and myself on September 26th at Eagle Mount. We do have only a few tickets left, but please join us on the 26th and stay tuned for more announcements from Slam. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Brian. We'll see you.